Hello guys, and welcome to Supreme Ruler 2030. We've taken on the Germany and Russia campaigns at this point. They were the two most voted for in a poll that I ran. The next most voted for, by a pretty good margin, was the United States campaign. China came in with the least by a long shot. So, the United States stands at a critical point, facing complex challenges on the global stage. However, our citizens are hesitant to get involved in foreign conflicts. To overcome this hurdle, our strategy focuses on indirect involvement through proxy wars against formidable adversaries like Russia and China. We must navigate these conflicts carefully, as engaging directly in warfare with low civilian support would worsen our already difficult circumstances. I don't really have much comedic commentary for this introduction. This is probably the most realistic one that I've read so far for the campaigns. The average American citizen is generally pretty anti-war. Otherwise, they've taken a very Cold War approach to setting the stage for what America's going to be doing. Anyway, this is going to take a whole lot of organizing of technology and production. I'm probably going to be sitting here for hours doing that. So let's start it up, and I'll get back to you with something. Right, there's an intro. Global and domestic challenges. The prevailing sentiment among American civilians leads heavily towards isolationism. True, reflecting weariness towards foreign conflicts and the sacrifices endured by countless American lives. This widespread perspective poses limitations on our ability to actively engage in global affairs. Nonetheless, in the face of emerging threats, we must persevere, aiming to shift the narrative away from isolationism towards a collective defense, not only safeguarding our own nation, but also protecting the well-being of the global community. Okay. Navigating these challenges calls for subtle support strategies, deftly addressing the evolving landscape while we work towards a future where the importance of collective security becomes paramount. Yeah, okay. That does kind of seem like generally what the American government usually wants to accomplish. I'd love to see them accomplish it in real life, and it'll be quite interesting to accomplish it in this campaign, or try to, as the one and only. Yep. So, I showed this off a little bit, and I played this in the beta. In the beta, it starts with North Korea attacking South Korea or whatever, and you have to rush across the ocean to help, and then China gets involved. However, the world's landscape is of course changed. One thing I instantly notice is that we don't have any allies. Where's NATO? What kind of America is going to focus on collective security when NATO has apparently collapsed? Who are these people? Emily Williams. That sounds very British. Louis Dupont. That sounds very French. So, yeah, where's NATO? That's my question. If NATO's gone, does that mean... Who the fuck? Does that mean that Russia is gonna try to eat Europe? I don't know. How come we have line of sight with Saudi Arabia despite them not liking us? And mutual defense. Not an alliance, though. Just transit, mutual defense, line of sight. That's gotta mean something, right? So I guess I should go around trying to make alliances like I do at the beginning of every campaign. Okay, yeah, we still have mutual defense, line of sight, and everything with South Korea as well. So definitely they're going to make us go after South Korea just like in the beta. We don't appear to have that stuff with Taiwan. Nope. Nor anything with Japan. I was able to get an alliance offered anyway with Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, and the Cook Islands for what that's worth. If we have it with Saudi Arabia now too, that's probably saying something very important. Okay. Bosnia-Herzegovina doesn't have a leader, like a prime minister or a... God, are all these countries prime ministers? I thought here, you don't have a prime minister. Yeah, like a president. Do all these alright, anyway. It has a presidency of the country, and it just has a crest. They don't have an actual leader, which is very weird. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm going around collecting alliances with literally anyone that will give me one, including in Africa. I've gone to Europe now. Greece. Turkey actually won't yet. But as I start making allies, more countries will say yes. My idea right now is to just, try to kind of reform NATO, but also just get as many allies as possible. Get as many countries to like us as possible. As a high GDP country, we should be able to self-sustain, like we did with Germany in the Germany campaign. Russia, of course we couldn't, but their GDP is very low in comparison. So we know we can kind of predict how finances will go, assuming that the finances in the game have not been rebalanced. Fixed might be a better word, but I really don't consider it a bug. It's more just poor balancing. Not all these countries will say yes to us immediately. They will once other ones say yes, as things like free trade and whatnot boost the opinion of other countries with us in the world. We won't really need to do a lot of supporting if we just get as many alliances as possible out of the gate. There's actually not that many we can get. Surprisingly, the world was all head over heels for, what was it, Germany, but for America, it's surprisingly well balanced. I know everything isn't set entirely yet, but I have a few comments about spending. So I've said everything like I usually do. Look at how insanely positive our budget is before any adjustment. This is not accounting for trades or anything. What the fuck? What on earth? It's gonna change, I'm sure it is. Especially as prices adjust and infrastructure changes things, but I am absolutely astounded that we can have basically double the income than expenses. Russia never got anything close to this. Germany didn't either. Germany has less GDP though, I think. Per capita, 50. Was it 50 when I played them? Really? 69, almost 70 here. Yeah, so this is going to be even more financially stable. Resources, we are not the greatest on in any regard. Infrastructure will help a little bit. We don't want any hydroponics. Get rid of that. Rubber, we certainly don't have any natural ones. Did they get rid of all the rubber in Hawaii? Yes, they did. Sadly, they did. Ah, rubber, 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 every time. Synths, though, oh my god, 107. As of right now, it's more expensive to make than to sell or buy, so I might manually start turning these off. I'll keep them, probably, but turn them off. Timber, this is surprisingly even. We might want to make more. It's profitable to sell. We don't want to really sell for profit, because we know the world doesn't work like that with the current balancing of the game. We just want to make sure that we're making enough always, maybe slightly more, enough that we can manipulate it by just turning off excess like I plan on doing with rubber. And in fact, let's just turn off 7 of them to start. That's not a lot. Let's just get it down to around 100 and kind of figure it out from there. Coal mines we might need more of. Again, production will go up as we make more stuff, or we just don't fucking make any of, apparently. Gonna scrap the composite ore. We don't want that. So we're gonna need to build a lot of ore mines if we want self-sufficiency. It looks like we save money right now, although that is being influenced by the fact that we have a composite ore running. For now, buying is okay. It's cheaper. It will actually save us money. Coal is pretty neck and neck, so we could do with improving there. Oil, we almost certainly want to not import. It's profitable to sell, which means, ideally, yeah. Oh my good god, we have so many oil derricks. The oil map, I'm sure, looks crazy. Yep. I've gone ahead and allied Mexico and all that, because amazingly, they'll say yes to that. I don't really understand the starting relations. We don't make nearly enough uranium. As of right now, production cost is very high compared to buying, but nobody makes really any or enough. If we're going to produce things such as our Navy, we are 100% going to need some more of this. We have 4 built already. I think I might just add to this right now. Suggested location. Okay, 1, 2, 3. How much do we make right now? 3k. That'll go up at least a little bit to maybe like 5k at least, right? We consume right now 11k, but that's going to go up like crazy. I'm going to make sure we don't overproduce nukes or anything. I want to just keep auto-placing them. Although I'm sure there will be the problem, as the more I think about this, of there's probably other things on some of these hexes. Actually, maybe not. Uranium's in pretty unique places. Such as right here. This is pretty unique. Add 2 right there, and then we have like 5 building. This is maybe not full of uranium, it's just full. Facilities, what else is there? Coal mines and power other. Oh, that's interesting. Personally, I really don't think that should be on a place where mines can go. So I'm going to scrap this. It's not a bad source of power, but it shouldn't be competing with mines. So I'm going to get rid of that. We have 5. I wouldn't mind building one more. I'm just kind of looking over the hexes we have available, looking for anything that conflicts. There you go, put one right there. 6, that'll bring us up to 10. Will that be enough? No. I just don't want to go too crazy right now. We should have plenty of uranium production for what we need. Importing, again, just really isn't an option. Electricity, will be interesting to see how that goes. Consumer goods, we barely make enough. And oh my god, we have so many mids. Alright, we're going to want to fix this. So coal small, get rid of that. I just don't like smalls. Hydro smalls, I'll keep for the time being. It's not as efficient, but hydro is a bit different than other things, assuming it's already built. Coal is just like, it would be so wasteful on our coal resource to leave smalls. Nuclear smalls, ooh. Those produce a lot of power, even as smalls. Might leave those there for the time being. There are a lot of other smalls as well. Wow, what is this? So many smalls, I hate it. Petrol smalls, there's not a lot, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, get rid of that. Make that a little bit more efficient. Indie goods we have so much of, thankfully. Military goods we have a lot of as well. A lot of production for that. 10k, don't really know how much that's going to consume, so I'll revisit this once I get everything building, and then I want to get rid of as many mids or small versions of things as possible, because it's just not efficient for a country of this scale. So I'm going through my ships. I'm just going through all my designs right now. And I was going through the Zumwalt and the Arleigh Burke, and I'm amazed to see that in this game, they actually made the Zumwalt cheaper in every single way except military goods required. 2 bill to make as opposed to 4 Zumwalt to Arleigh Burke. 2 bill each for annual maintenance. I feel like these values must be wrong, because the whole problem with the Zumwalt in real life is that it's too expensive. It's too technologically advanced to the point of being inefficient to make and utilize, and that is why we still make Arleigh Burkes, because they're good, and at this point they're very cheap, especially compared to a Zumwalt. But the Zumwalt is cheaper here. It's so strange, but I guess that makes my choice here easy. Okay, I have now been recording for 3.5 hours, and I've finally gone through everything. So let's go over the decisions that I've made. Let's see what we've done. So, for infantry, we've narrowed it down to, we're going to look at research next, the M2A4 Bradley IFV. For recon, the M3A4 Bradley CFV. These were both pretty easy decisions to make. They were just better than all their competition at their given role. The next best competition came from Striker variants, which this game makes notably worse than Bradley's, which is very strange to me, given the Striker I think is newer. We have the M1A2 Abrams Tusk from 2007. We got a new one researching. This is just the best tank we have so far. There is no competition. Anti-tank, we went with a Striker variant MGS. This is temporary. It's, I wasn't very happy with it, but we got another one researching. I'll show that off in a bit. HIMARS 2 MLRs for our main arty. We have something newer coming, but it's actually not going to be excessively better than this. I'll show you when we get there. I think this is what I ended up using as Germany, the MIM-204 Meads. This is our air defense system of choice. Right now I have no transport selected. We already have a lot of supply trucks and heavy supply trucks from the past. I didn't want to make more of those or the most up-to-date ones from like 85, so I'm actually researching a different one that I will show off when we get there. For helicopters, we have both of the longbow variants, one being multiple countries, one being ours. Really, there's no massive difference, so these are just here for now until we replace them. The F-22A Raptor, of course. For our interceptor, I actually excluded every single tactical bomber. There was no tactical bomber that I thought would be useful to us currently. I do have a new one coming, but for now, we're just going to operate without any new, or keep the old ones, tactical bombers. Multi-role, of course, the F-35. I've specifically narrowed it down to the CCV Lightning II, which is a long deck carrier variant instead of the short deck one. This is not the VTOL, and so that can operate on our carriers and also in our airfields. It was just kind of better than the other variants in my opinion, including the base Air Force variant that cannot operate on the carriers, so I went with that. I actually excluded every strategic bomber because right now we started with like 2 that were relevant. And I can actually show you this here. We had the B-2A Spirit, which has a annual maintenance of 40 billion and a cost to produce of 80 billion. I found this ridiculous for a strategic bomber, especially because this whole thing is like, in real life, it's a stealth bomber. Okay, whoop-de-doo. In this game, that's communicated via profile. But the F-22 and F-35 have similar profiles, so I don't really see the big deal with this. This is not worth it. Compared to the B-528 Stratofortress, only 1 billion annual maintenance, 2 billion. Way better despite being much older, but still, I didn't like this. So we're going to replace altogether this and just build other things in the meantime. Transports, I didn't narrow down as much. There was like 30 of them at the start. For now, I'm just going to keep these. They're all pretty decent. They're all pretty good. I have some replacements coming that will just replace all of them, but I didn't narrow it down to one standard thing for the time being because nothing stood out to me as being worth being standard. For our Navy, we have the Virginia as our newest, most up-to-date submarine, so I went ahead and just picked that. I have an interesting strategy, I think, for researching, which I'll show you in a moment. For carriers, I narrowed it down to the Gerald R. Ford, of course. It's the best carrier in the world, not that this game would really make you understand that. The stats for it are very lackluster, which is why I'm not sure if I want to standardize it or not, when there is this America class here, which is just like, you can get several of them, and the utility you get out of them is honestly way more cost efficient. So the only thing is it's not nuclear, but it doesn't even need to be. For now, I'm undecided about these two. I'm just gonna leave it. I'll figure it out later. Capital ships, I narrowed it down to the Port Royal from 92. I'm really tempted to just get rid of this, but for now I'll keep it. Got a much better capital ship incoming, like 20 years newer. Zumwalt, we're not actually researching a new escort at all. This is one of the things we're just not replacing, kind of like carriers. This is the most up-to-date escort we have. As I pointed out earlier, they made it even cheaper than the Arleigh Burke for some reason, meaning this is just like the undefeated god of escorts that I know of, at least, you know, as represented in this game. I got rid of all of our patrol ships because none of them really did what I wanted them to do. I have a new one researching and it still doesn't do what I wanted to do, but it'll function. Just something to be a cheaper escort to watch our coasts, basically. Transport, I've narrowed it down to the AoE 1, the AoE 6, because there's a huge cost efficiency dilemma between these two, so I can't decide. And the San Antonio for actual naval invasions, if we end up needing that. I kind of doubt we will in the scale of this campaign, but I like to just plan. I really did not narrow down very much on the missiles. I'm just going to research newer, better missiles, and I'll maybe look at excluding once I have new standardized missiles in, which I'm already researching. Silo launch, you know, we're looking at nukes. I'm not going to put auto build for nukes. I am going to have 3 Minutemen producing at all times. We're not going to use any of the other ones because they're not as cost efficient. This is very cost efficient, not the most damaging, but for what you pay for it, it is fantastic. And I'll just have some of these pumping out, 3 of them at a time. So that's like half of a hex's worth of silos shooting at once. It's kind of the idea I went for. We'll need to place down silos. Nukes in the span of a single player campaign is not something we're ever going to need. Look at this fucking split down the map here. This has been an SRU forever, and it's in 2030 as well. I don't know what this is about. But, that's what we're doing for missiles. Let's look at research. Alright, so speaking of missiles, I am researching the M48 attack MS blah blah saturation attack cruise missile. I thought that would be neat to have, at least for now. I'm also researching the M48. These other words, it's just another standard missile that I thought I would research. Where's the other missile? There's one more that's actually going to be down here. Alright, so this is like the missile to replace pretty much every air missile for, you know, ground attack. It's this super advanced ground attack smart bomb. And basically, once I get to this, I'm just going to exclude every other ground attack weapon from planes that I get. Because look at this. This is amazing. But it's going to require some research to actually get that. Now, here's the RD I'm researching, by the way, that I mentioned. 2018, so notably newer. It's not definitively better, but its range is much higher than what we have right now. So I thought it would be a good option, even if its attack values are not nearly as good. It can attack from much farther away, which gives it an advantage in a way. So ideally, that's what's going to be replacing our HIMARS. Now, here's that patrol ship I was talking about. PG-171C Challenger. Now, I don't personally understand why you would have a patrol vessel as an advanced nation that does not have ASW. But I was looking over the designs and there was no good patrol vessels with ASW. So I'm just going to recruit these anyway. I'm going to research this. 30 million annual maintenance for some minuscule anti-ship capabilities and anti-air. It's basically just a cheaper escort, just so we don't have to have exclusively escorts, and that's the only reason I'm researching it. Nothing really comes close to it in modernity? I don't know how to say that word. I'm also, here's the strat bomber. You know, we have no strat bombers making. This is what I'm replacing them with. Now, I actually had a choice here, and I'll show you. I could have researched the B-21 Raider, which is kind of like the B-2A, but it's much newer, and it's much cheaper. 13 billion annual maintenance, 26 to make it, compared to 40 billion and 80 billion, much cheaper. However, still ridiculously expensive. So I decided, in this age and era where strat bombers aren't even that relevant, why put all that money into strat bombers? Especially when the biggest payload they can deliver that I would really care about is a nuke, when I can just make Minutemen and place silos around and hit anywhere in the world that I want. So this doesn't really have a purpose. Therefore, I am going to instead go the drone route. Not as new as the B-21 Raider. However, there's no personnel attached. If these get shot down, we lose no people. Only 390 million annual maintenance, 766 to build, much cheaper. It has a range that can keep up with generally a lot of our planes. It can still get its job done, but it has to get closer. If we lose it, that's fine, because we could lose 10 of these and still not lose a single B-21 Raider. Forget about a B-2A Spirit, that would just be ridiculous. So as you see, strat bombers aren't necessarily going to be very much of a focus for me, to the point where I'm going like just with drones, which are going to be like the perfect size for my air-to-ground missile attacks anyway. Actually, perfect size if I was using the more generalized design. The American design is actually smaller, so it could function with even less max missile size capacities. Now going all the way up here, we're of course getting the naval engineer. It's very important. I got a lot of just non-tradable research that's going to be thrown in here. Here's the supply vehicle I'm getting. It's the newest one. It can't transport as much, but it has better defensive stats and reaction stats, things like that. We're going to update the bridging units as well, because I'm probably not going to go very big into engineers. Next up, we have the Ohio, a newer sub, the newest sub I can get right now. The Ohio is not necessarily as good as the Virginia is. However, it's almost as good, like just almost there. But it's half the price in every way. It's like half the maintenance, half the cost to build. The stats are almost identical, just a little bit worse. So I'm getting the Ohio. It's going to be my new cost-efficient submarine, basically. For recon, we're going to update this with the Shadow here. It's about half a decade newer. Its stats are just generally improved overall in every single way. Same thing goes with this infantry, the FCSW, to replace our Bradley, just generally better in every single way. Slightly, because the numbers are all squished down in 2030 compared to SRU. The helicopter I will use to replace the longbows is the Invictus here, 2022 design, a lot newer, pretty cost efficient in comparison, especially given that it's newer and its stats are generally higher. Quite happy with this. I mean, look at this profile. It's as stealthy as a B2 for like a fraction of the price. I think it'll be good. Got a lot of upgrades here. I'm also getting a new transport to kind of standardize it. The V-44 Stork is going to be my kind of like VTOL transport. It's more of a helicopter than a plane. But I also am getting another transport, which I'll skip to, which is this right here, which is, you know, it can't transport as much, actually. But its price is decent, its stats are good, and it can go very far and has very high reaction time. So, one standard transport for high up in the air, one standard for not high up in the air, and quite frankly, if these are researching, realistically, I don't need to build any more transports. We're not going to have a massive demand for transports in the meantime. I could just get rid of these, it's fine. Let's just standardize it now by getting rid of everything else that I'm not going to make, because I'm already researching things that are just going to replace all of this anyway. As you see, this can be a extensive process. Galaxies. I think these fly over my house every day. This is what I've been doing. I've now been recording for like nearly 4 hours. This one episode. And I knew this would happen because America just has so god damn it, setup to do. And excluding things and getting things set up is so user unfriendly. It always has been. Has not improved in this game at all. I'd say it's actually a little bit harder now. But make and do. There you go. Oh god, there's more. Okay, that's nice and standardized. Let's look at the rest of this. So, we're also getting the new Abrams that I mentioned, 2018 instead of like 2002 or 4 or whatever. This is just an upgraded Abrams from the last one. Better in every single way. That's all there really is to know. 2018 design, and that's what we're upgrading to. We have right here, I can't remember what symbol this is. Here's our new tactical bomber. This is what I'm going to actually replace. I'm not making any tactical bombers, but I will. It's going to be this one. The FB-22 Delta Raptor. I had to make a choice here. It was really tough to make this decision. America's tactical bombers aren't really as good as I would want because all the effort really goes into the multi-role fighters especially. But this is what we're getting. 2008 design. I thought this would be pretty decent, pretty nice. I don't know why we don't just start out with these kinds of things anyway, but you know what? Here we are. This is what we're getting. As for battleships, like I mentioned, we're upgrading from a 1993 design to 2020. The Michigan, this is a nuclear capital ship, as we can see here. Stats are amazing in every single way. This is just fantastic. There was a 2019 design, or something like 2018, that the game thought was better, and I don't really know why I thought it was better. In my opinion, this was better in every single way, despite it saying, oh, only 3-star. I think the game's dumb sometimes like that, but its ranges are amazing. Its damage values are great. This battleship can fight high air targets. I find that hysterical. So we're going to get a standardized battleship in there, much better than the one we have. It's going to take a little bit to research it. 198 days, which is fine. And honestly, we can't even make a single Port Royal in that time. So I will let the AI start making as many of them as they want. I don't expect very many to get made, but I'll let them go for now. However, simultaneously, 390 days. By the time this researches, I could then end up building one of the newer battleships before one of these ever gets made. So I'm actually really questioning this, especially with only 10 naval production. We start with like none. We start with 27 air, which is ridiculous. We really need more naval. Maybe it's worth just not building this at all. I'm not sure. I might just let it go. I might just let it go for now, because, I mean, what else are we going to build? A bunch of Zumwalts? Well, you know, that would probably be better, honestly. Alright, yeah, you know what? Live decision making here. Fuck the Port Royal. It just takes too long to make. Oh god, and now I have to exclude other things. Alright, I'll also have to keep my eye out in case the AI decides to try making any ancient things, which it loves to do in this game for some reason. Now, this is a decision I was really unsure about. For an interceptor, the F-112 Blackbird 2. It's an upgraded Cold War plane from 2008. I'm not really sure if I'm going to replace the F-22 Raptor with this or use it alongside it, but the reason why I went with this is its ranges are good, its damage values are okay, it's expensive, but it's a high air target. Almost every nation in the world is incapable of fighting high air targets, and certainly not very capable at all at hurting them, even other high air targets. This is a benefit they have in the earlier scenarios in SRU, but even in modern day, they just kind of have this advantage. So that is what we're doing with production and research. I've gone ahead and set up pretty much all my priorities. I've made sure the AI can't intervene in anything that I wanted to. I've gone ahead and I've set up my ROE for the time being. AI, I might become less lenient with it. Who knows? We're probably gonna have to mobilize here very close to the beginning. I expect this to be very fast paced. I have all my spending set and we're pretty much good to get started. However, we have filled this episode with the sheer vast amount of setup that I had to do. And at this point, I should probably go eat something or drink some water, given that it's been 4 hours since I've done either. So, I hope you guys are excited to see this series. I believe it should be pretty successful. Depends how hard they made it. For now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.